Okay guys, so custom drive shafts. So I've got it laid out here, one of my drive shafts and the assembly of all the parts. So before I go through all the different bits, to explain how I got to this stage. So obviously the plan is to use the existing mini hub, and then obviously the drive shaft needs to get from that to the gearbox on the micro engine. So what I did, obviously I measured the distance I required from the gearbox to the hub, and just FYI, when I measured it, I didn't measure it from the edge of the CV joint here, I measured it from roughly in the middle, because obviously this will be inside and it'll allow a bit of forward and back play, so I counted for that. And the company who made this drive shaft, I gave them that measurement, and I provide them also with my micro CV joint here, so they can count the splines, that the specific spline type and number of splines and diameter, so they can make this end of the custom drive shaft. And then this end, the company was familiar with doing custom drive shafts for minis, so I didn't have to provide them anything, so they knew what they needed to do for this end. So essentially you've got single piece drive shaft, so this has not been two drive shafts welded and put together like sometimes you see. This is one single piece of metal, so it'll be good and strong. And I'm just about to start putting it together. So you have a few different CV joint types on different cars. In the case of this micro, on one side I've got the tripod type, which is what you're seeing here, on the driver's side, and then on the passenger side here it's the other type, which is like the cage type. So interestingly, it didn't have the same type on both sides, but whatever. Okay, so I'll be putting this together now. So I've got a CV joint, well, cup should we say it, that's the actual joint there. I've got my CV boot here, I've got some clamp here to go around the CV joint, and the pliers that you're using with these clamp types just to grip and put the clamp in place. Some CV grease, because at the moment I've cleaned this out from all the old nasty grease that was in there, so I want to repack that with a brand new CV grease. And then same situation here on the mini side. I've got the mini outer CV joint here, I've got a brand new CV boot here, and also I'll be repacking that with grease and putting some new clamps on it. Okay, so let's get on with the assembly. Okay, so that's the first drive shaft assembled. Annoyingly, as I've realised, the CV boot kit I got for this end, for the mini end, doesn't come with these the metal clamps. It comes with just zip ties. I don't have much faith in a zip tie for this application, so I'm going to order some more of these clips and do that so it matches. Okay, so that essentially is the first one assembled. So now I'm going to do the passenger side. I won't film that because it's just the same process, except for that's a shorter drive shaft because it's the passenger side, so the gearbox is closest to that side. Okay, there you go, both drive shafts now assembled. Okay, so I've used the zip ties on the mini end just for now, but next step is to get these on the Mini. Oops, sorry about that. So if you're wanting to fit 10-inch wheels on a classic Mini, which by the way in my opinion 10-inch wheels look the dog's bollocks on classic Minis, and you've got a I can't remember what year it is, but a certain year, I think from the 80s onwards from Minis, they came with a larger brake disc diameter of, I think it's 8 inches. And the problem with that is with the 8-inch disc and caliper, and you want to fit a 10-inch rim, so I've got just a placeholder 10-inch steel rim here. As you probably can see, or tell, it actually fouls the brake caliper. You can't put it on. Okay, so the resolution, if you do want to rock some decent 10-inch wheels on a Mini, is you've got to upgrade the brakes. So we need to go from an 8-inch down to, I think it's a 7.4 disc and a different caliper as well. So these smaller diameter discs were actually used on some of the old Cooper Minis back in the day. So you buy the right stuff. It's not, I won't say call it a downgrade just because it's smaller. What she said. But yeah, so I'm going to strip all this off, take the disc off, take the caliper off, and I'll show you all the new smaller brake disc kit I'm going to put on. There you go. So I just took the old disc off the Mini. I didn't show it, but it's relatively easy. You just got rather on some cars where you have a caliper and then a carrier bracket, you've just got these two main bolts here, or bolt holes, that go into the hub. So you need to undo them. Caliper goes off. The drive shaft is already out, so I'm obviously changing my drive shaft for custom ones here. So you can see the difference here. So this is the just over 8 inches. This one here just over 7. Okay, and the caliper too. So fitting these will allow you to run 10-inch wheels. So let's get to it. Okay, so I got my new disc set up here. So it comes in a few different pieces. So you've got your disc and your what is called the drive flange here. So this has got the splines in it that connects to the drive shaft. So out to the brake caliper. But this would go here, so slot over the wheel nuts, or wheel studs rather. It does. It's a bit of a tight fit. You know, helps if I put it in the right holes. She said. There you go. So then you got some screws just to hold that down, and then you can put that on the car. Okay, so drive shaft installation. So I've started off with the driver side, so the long one. I've pushed that end and seated it down into the gearbox, and then my hub end, obviously I need to get this end through here on the hub. So looking at this, I've took my discs calipers off because I'm changing them. But yeah, so I need to get this end in here. On some cars I've tried it where you can move the hub with the steering wheel, like steer it out the way, and you've got enough play in the CV joint to try and wiggle it in. But in this case, I've never done this in a Mini before, it looks like that's not possible. So what I'm going to do is undo the top and bottom ball joints in the hub, so I can remove the hub and then I can bring it back on place while also inserting it over the drive shaft end like that. Okay, so let's get cracking and lacking. Okay, so to get the drive shaft through into the hub, I'm going to have to disconnect the hub from the suspension. So from what I can see, I can do it two ways. I can compress the rubber cones to give me enough play to take and undo these top ball joints, or what I'm going to try first is I'm going to undo these lower control arm bolts for these control arms that with the rose joint ends that I installed previously when I first did the subframe. I'll undo them That should allow me to bring the hub out and be able to slot in the drive shaft. So that's the video. Okay, so as you saw, I took the lower control arms off. So now I just need to separate the top ball joint here. So I've already taken the nut off, and what I'm going to do is get some wax here. That should release the interference fit of the ball joint stem and the top suspension arm. If that doesn't work, I've got a ball joint separator. I'll try this first. It should be fairly easy to come off because I've already had this off before. Okay, so giving it a bit of persuasion, didn't seem to work, so I've got my ball joint separator here. So this is a specific type that allows you to separate ball joints without damaging the ball joint. You get them like pickle forks as well. Got a few of them, but typically using them, you can pretty much destroy the ball joint using them. So this one allows you to not completely foobar the ball joint. So this I'll tighten now, and it'll push down on the stem of the ball joint and separate it from there. Oh dear me, that was scary. There we go. Now that that is out of the way, I can manoeuvre the drive shaft into position like so, and I can put the ball joint back into position somehow. There we go. Get my nut and bolt back on there before I lose energy. There we go. So these to reconnect that control arm, and yeah, that's this drive shaft installed. Okay, so it's time to assemble the brake disc and caliper. So as you saw, so I'll put the drive shaft through the hub, and I've got here the new brake disc, smaller brake disc, and I've connected the drive flanges here. So this has got the splines inside which will correspond to the drive shaft. Okay, so just gonna place these over like so. There you go. That slots in, and then you've got this little spacer thingy. No idea what you call it. Goes in there. Okay, and then you've got your main hub nut. Like so. Okay. So I'll do that up in a second. I'll do that up in a second to the required torque, and always note that there's a hole in the drive shaft end here, or either the CV joint end here, and that's to put a split pin through there just to lock it in place, because this is a castle nut. Okay, but I'll do that in a sec. Okay, got my new brake caliper. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is drop everything. As I do, I'm going to take the cap off the main brake pack connection on the brake caliper. Got the brake flexible hose here, and a crush washer, a couple of crush washers I've just dropped. So I'm going to thread this onto the brake line first before I put the caliper on. That way I'm not twisting the line, or so I can twist the caliper but keep the line still, so I'm not twisting it, like so. Okay, there we are. I'll get that nip up in a second. So I've already installed the new brake pads as well, the brake caliper. Get that on like that, and then get my caliper bolt. There you go. That one done. These come with split spring washers, so make sure you keep them on. There we go. Brake assembled with my new drive shaft. So I'll just go tighten all these up and set them to the required torque. But essentially the other side is the same process, so I'm not going to go through that again. Yeah, and I think I'm going to leave it here for this video. I think I achieved quite a lot, so I'm quite happy. So I know I've been saying it a few times in my videos, the guys who've been watching my videos, I keep saying this a lot, but I will start the wiring next. So I bought all my, I bought a universal loom, I bought my ECU, aftermarket ECU, so that's it. After this is done, that is my next step, and that'll be the last thing before I can actually start the vehicle. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next time.